Hey now, welcome back to the channel. Well, you're working on the race car. Now I want to go over a few more things with you, touching the subject of suspensions. So now, now that I got my gear in this thing, and I got it all that straightened out, I want to talk about rear suspension and rear steer. If you can tell right here by looking, look at that wheel right here. Take my finger, way more than 2 fingers. See that right there? 2 knuckles. The other side, I always measure off the front. I don't ever care much about the rear side. I always measure off the front of the car. Look at this, 2 fingers. This right here has rear steer in it, and we're fixing to adjust it because I had adjusted the car at the track the other day. You know, I moved them lower bars down, which moves the wheels around a little bit. But when I'm doing that, ended up, I had to re-square the pinion because the pinion was nose down because the lower control arms come down to another point, so it pushed back. A lot of people set their rear suspension up at ride height. We don't drag race ride height. We drag race with it separated, you understand? So setting it up at ride height, ideally, if you take the top arm on this side, let me get under the car, I'm gonna show you something. So ideally, if we take this control arm here and we spin it out the same length, that the same length, that one on that side the same length, and that one, it would be square. And ideally, it would go up and down at the same rate. The problem is, if that top bar I put in here, or your factory torque box, has flex and one side's off a degree, just a simple degree. Now, this control arm here does not let it come down at the same point that one does. You understand? If it's pulled out a degree, just a simple degree. A degree on something like this is inevitable. It just is. Look, that stuff right there is welded in by me in my garage. Eyeballed, close, measured, level. But is that bar squared this way to the front of the car? We don't know. We know it's squared in frame rails, but when the guy built this car on a Monday, a Sunday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday at Ford, we don't know how true that frame rail is to this frame rail if it's dead on. Because back then, they didn't care about cars as much. They weren't built off as square as they are now. So, if that top bar, say this frame rail on this side, say this car's been hit over here, which we know it's been hit, I backed it into the wall. Say it's shifted in just a little bit, just a degree, just a simple degree. Now everything on this side of the car is moved in a degree versus everything on that side of the car it will be moved back because, see, with this right here being the pivot point, when you move this side in, that side moves back. You understand? Because that's overhang. Anytime you have overhang and you have a pivot point, if I shove this side in, that side's naturally going to flex out. So 1 degree over here can make a big difference over there by the time it goes all the way through the rear suspension and all that stuff. So when you set these cars up, yes, it's good to get it close. It's good to get the measurements on the upper arms and all pretty similar. We always try to get them similar. But the problem is everybody sets these cars up with them on the ground. So when you align this thing on the ground, it can be straight. But if it's off a degree, when it comes down, this wheel's gonna come back different than that. And that's what gives you some rear steer that you always have to adjust for. So when you adjust for rear steer, what I'll try making a car wheelie. If I can make it wheelie and see which way it can go, I adjust my rear end to make it where it goes straight. You understand? Because that's where it really matters at. So as long as the front wheels are on the ground, this don't matter. I can drive the front wheels to make this not. Closer you get the rear end, the better you can let go of the front end. It's just like when I do alignment. I don't do alignment with that front end on the ground like that. I stretch some shocks all the way out as far as I can. And if you notice, look at this. See that was kind of towed out right there on this side? It's kind of the same on this side. These wheels are kind of like this a little bit. because as close as we could get it, because I jacked the front suspension all the way up as high as I can get it. When I get it jacked up as far as I can, I get it, I center it. Then I let it down and I see where it is when it's all the way down, and I find a medium point. So basically what I do, I take the travel when it's all the way up, I go in there and I say the wheels are towed out. Say the wheels are towed out at ride height, but when it goes all the way up, it tows in. I don't set it all the way up dead on neither, because sometimes the car don't always top out the shock where it's going to go and all. So typically what I'll do is if it tows out with the front on the ground, sitting ride height, and then it tows in at ride height, I always split the middle. And that way about halfway up on the suspension, I go through and I'll take it and I'll make it dead center. And the idea behind that is when it leaves, yeah, the wheels might tip in a little bit, but as it goes down track and that front end starts to settle, when that front end settles and stays consistent, I want the wheels to be straight when the power's in on it and there's no more lift to it when it's done settle back down. But I also go through and make sure that if I strap the front down, I adjust the front end. Because if you go through and if you set the front end up where it's towed out on the ground on ride height, but then when you lift it up, it tows in. Well, if you strap the front end and you tighten the front end all the way down, then guess what? Your wheels are poked out. Your wheels will be poked like this. So then what happens is whichever tire, if that tire leaves the ground over there and this tire is going this way, guess what? The car is going this way because you don't have that wheel over there to help you fight this wheel. So if you're going to go through and if you're going to tighten the front of the car all the way up and it's going to be lowered all the way down and there's no movement there, then you have to set your ride height there. Basically what I'm trying to tell you is you set your ride height, you set your alignment off the ideal height that you want the front of the car. So if you want the front of the car up there like no prep style, you want it to be pretty straight in that area. It don't matter when you let off the gas, when you're cruising to the pits. What matters is when going down the track, when that front end is all the way separated, where that wheel's in line. My car I never plan on it to be all the way up in the air. I like it to separate a little bit in the front, like give a little bit of lift and plane out. So that's where I want my wheels the truest. Same thing with the rear. So when you come to the rear of a car, I don't want it to be, I don't care. I do care how square it is on the car at ride height. But the main thing is that I get everything, like I'm gonna check the ride height where the wheels are, and I'm gonna get them close. And then I'm gonna try getting as close as possible with it separate. I'm gonna figure out what I need to do to make my adjustment, make sure when this rear end goes up and down, it stays square to the car. And that's how you get these cars to drive really good. You don't have to fight them and steer and all that stuff. So basically what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna jack this rear end up, I'm gonna look see which one's closer, I'm gonna make an adjustment, I'm gonna get it rear end square to it, I'm gonna let it down and see what it happens. And if something makes a movement or a change, I'm gonna change something else, and I'm gonna find the medium point. I'm gonna find where this rear end goes up and down fluently at the right squareness to the car. And that's all that really matters. That's how you get these cars to drive good. If you're fighting rear steer issues, a lot of times it can be because you got the left side control arm on top too tight and the right one's too loose. The right one's too tight, the left one's loose. All that changes it. But it also changes off of them torque boxes that are in the car. Factory torque boxes, they flex. That's why all this stuff is adjustable. You have to adjust it out to figure out the nice medium. Everybody talks about squaring the rear end up, but nobody talks about the rear end being square at separation where you're racing at. This is where I plan on racing at this year. I plan on it being separated pretty far. So I want this to be as square to the car as possible. And then I want, like I said, ride height, I want to get it square too, but I want to get this as square as possible like I do my alignment. You got to find what your car likes and what your driving style likes. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to jack this thing up, see if we can square it up and figure out what we like. And then tomorrow night, we're going to go out to Shady Side. And I'm gonna go to Shady Side with it tomorrow. I plan on loosening the front up, tighten the rear down, and I'm gonna try getting this thing to see if I can get it to wheelie one time with me, because I want the wheelie to see which direction it goes, because I can adjust that. And once I get the wheelie, or when it wheelies, it's on the back tires, it's driving straight, then I know that when I tighten everything back up, if I let Nigel drive it or anybody drive the car, I know if the car wheelies, I know it ain't gonna go to the wall. You know what I mean? It's just that precaution, because it's all how you set your car up. So you can put anybody in the seat up and you ain't gotta worry about it. Versus you get this thing set up where it's tight and it's on the ground and it's hooking, and then one pass it accidentally wheelies and wants to carry left, and you lose a round of racing because you can't drive it. So anyways, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you one later. Thank you.